I've held this envelope in my hands for nearly 50 years. 50 years. 50 years of hesitation, longing, fear, and love, all pressed into the thin paper I now stare at under the morning sun. Every time I think about sending it, a shadow freezes my heart, whispering that some truths are too dangerous to reveal. But today I feel the weight of time urging me to finally confront what I have kept hidden for so long. I live in the same house Henry and I built together. It's modest, but every corner carries a memory. The staircase where he carved our initials. The kitchen where I baked pies every Sunday, their scent spilling through the neighborhood. The windowsill lined with trinkets and a single photograph of us, young and laughing, taken decades ago. And now, this envelope. Its presence feels almost alive, like it has been waiting for me to finally pay attention. If you're reading this, I whisper, it's because I never had the courage to tell you the truth. Why have I never sent it? Fear? Pride? Love? All tangled together, paralyzing me. And yet, today I feel something different. A spark of daring. A whisper in the wind telling me that some truths, no matter how long they've waited, must finally see the light. I remember Henry saying, "Clara, there is nothing we cannot face together." But this letter is mine alone. It's my secret, my confession. I wrote it decades ago, in a quiet night, the house silent, the clock ticking. I poured all my thoughts, regrets, and hopes onto that paper. And then I froze. What if sending it destroyed the life I had carefully built? What if love, fragile and beautiful, could not survive my honesty? So I folded it, placed it in the envelope, and let it rest for 50 years. And now, here it is again in my hands. The words I wrote so long ago, they are no longer just ink on paper. They are my life, my heart, my fear, and maybe my chance for something I never knew I needed, closure. I used to think that time would heal everything, that silence would protect me from regret. But holding this letter today, I realize that some truths demand to be faced, no matter how long it takes. And so I sit here in the quiet morning, ready to remember, ready to feel, and ready to speak my story aloud. I remember the first time I held this envelope. I was 28, sitting on the wooden floor of our little study, my knees drawn to my chest. The rain tapped softly against the windows, and the house smelled faintly of Henry's tobacco and the old books he loved so much. I wrote each word as carefully as if the paper itself could absorb my heartbeats. And then, I could not send it. I tucked it away, and somehow, letting it rest became easier than revealing it. But the years do not forget, and memories, no matter how carefully tucked, find a way to press themselves into your chest. Have you ever carried a secret so heavy that you could feel it pressing on your chest even as you tried to sleep? That was me. Every morning, I would wake with it still lying in my mind like a stone. And every night, I would close my eyes, hoping tomorrow would give me courage. But courage, I learned, cannot be forced. It comes quietly, almost imperceptibly, and only when the time is right. I have lived most of my life thinking I understood love. I thought I understood patience, sacrifice, and loyalty. But that envelope, that small piece of paper, has taught me that love is more complex than I ever imagined. It contains fear, hope, longing, regret, forgiveness, and sometimes even courage. I am about to read it again, perhaps for the last time, and I am both terrified and relieved. It is strange, isn't it? How one simple envelope, forgotten for decades, can contain so much of a life lived. It is not just paper. It is memory. It is love. It is confession. And perhaps in the quiet of this morning, it will finally be freedom. I take a deep breath, feeling the air fill my lungs, steadying my shaking hands. I remind myself that I am not alone. Henry's memory, his love, his patience, surrounds me in this house. Every corner, every photograph, every smell reminds me of the life we built. And perhaps, it is that life that has given me the courage to finally confront this letter. I pick up the envelope one last time, tracing its edges. The words inside wait patiently, knowing they will be read. And I feel a strange sense of companionship with my younger self, the one who wrote them, trembling in that quiet study, believing she could not survive the truth. Now, all these years later, I feel the threads of fear unravel, replaced by anticipation, curiosity, and a fragile hope that perhaps the story is not over, it is only beginning. I was 22 when I first met Henry. I remember it as if it were yesterday, though nearly 60 years have passed. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind where the streets glisten and the scent of wet earth fills your lungs. I had ducked into the town library to escape the downpour, my hair plastered to my face, and I was drawn almost instinctively to a corner shelf filled with worn novels. That's when I saw him, reaching for the same copy of Pride and Prejudice. Our fingers brushed, and I remember thinking, this is something. He looked up, startled, and smiled in a way that made my stomach flutter. We laughed nervously, exchanging apologies, but neither of us let go of the book. For the next hour, we huddled in that quiet corner, flipping pages, sharing quotes, laughing at silly passages. I had never felt so connected to someone in so little time. It was as if the universe had paused for that moment, just for us. I can still feel the weight of that moment, the electricity of first connection. There was an innocence to it, a sweetness that I now realize I longed for more than anything else in the world. He had these gentle eyes, the kind that seemed to see right into your soul without judgment. I remember thinking, I could spend a lifetime knowing him. And in some strange way, I did. We married the following year, in a small chapel that smelled of lilies and old wood. I wore a dress my grandmother had sewn for me, the fabric slightly frayed at the edges, but perfect in its imperfection. Henry's suit was a little too big, but he wore it proudly, and his hands were steady as he held mine. I remember the way he looked at me, like he could see the sum of all my hopes and fears in a single glance. After the wedding, we threw ourselves into building our life together. Our house on Willow Lane was little more than a skeleton at first. We painted walls, laid floors, and planted a garden. I spent hours choosing the colors, deciding where the furniture should go, imagining how our days would unfold. Henry planted roses by the porch, insisting they would bloom every spring, promising that no matter what happened, life would carry its beauty forward. We developed little rituals that made life extraordinary. Every evening, he would read to me from one of our favorite books while I brewed tea. Every Sunday, we walked hand in hand along the river, talking about our dreams, the places we wanted to visit, and the life we hoped to build. Even on ordinary days, there was a magic, a sense that we were building something lasting. And yet, even in those days of pure happiness, life has a way of reminding us that joy is fragile. One summer, when I was 28, a letter arrived that shook me to my core. I remember holding it in my hands, feeling its weight, sensing that it contained something more than words. It was addressed to Henry, but the way it trembled in my grasp, I knew it would change everything. I didn't open it immediately. Instead, I carried it around the house, like a secret heartbeat, until I had the courage to face its contents. That letter began a series of events that would eventually lead me to write the envelope I hold today. It forced me to confront emotions I had never allowed myself to explore: fear, jealousy, desire, and a longing for honesty that terrified me. I had to decide, do I reveal the truth, risk everything, or bury it and carry the weight in silence? At 28, I thought I knew life, but that letter reminded me how little I actually understood about the heart. Looking back now, I realize that those early years were filled not only with joy but also with lessons I didn't fully appreciate at the time. Love is not simple. It is messy, frightening, and miraculous all at once. It demands courage, patience, and honesty, qualities I would spend decades learning to fully embrace. I remember our garden too, the one we planted together, carefully, tenderly. Henry loved to nurture things: roses, vegetables, even the tiniest seedlings. I would watch him in the mornings, watering, pruning, speaking quietly to each plant. He told me once, "Clara, love is like this garden. It needs attention, patience, and sometimes forgiveness for the things that wither." I didn't fully understand then. I do now. It is strange how small moments become monumental in memory. The way he laughed when I spilled tea on the counter, the way he kissed my forehead when the world felt overwhelming, the way he would insist on carrying me over the threshold when we moved into our first house. These moments, they stay. They shape you, long after the days have passed, long after the letters have been written and the secrets buried. Sometimes, I wonder how life would have turned out if I had acted differently that summer, if I had opened that first letter immediately. Would I have been braver? Would I have spoken the words I now whisper into the air, years too late? These questions linger, like shadows that stretch long and bend with the sunlight, never disappearing, always reminding me of the choices I made. And yet, even with those lingering questions, there is comfort. Comfort in memory. Comfort in the knowledge that the love I shared, the life I lived, was real. And though the letter I hold now carries decades of unspoken truths, it also carries the echoes of a life well loved, a life filled with moments of joy and quiet triumph. Perhaps this is what it means to live fully, to love deeply, to make mistakes, to carry regrets, and yet to continue forward, learning, growing, and eventually finding a way to reconcile the past with the present. Those early years shaped me. They taught me the delicate balance between hope and fear, the sweetness of first love, and the inevitability of change. And now, as I hold the envelope I never sent, I understand that those lessons were only the beginning. They were the foundation of a life filled with love, sorrow, courage, and eventually understanding. I remember the night I wrote it as if it were etched into my bones. The house was silent, cloaked in shadows, with only the faint ticking of the clock and the occasional rustle of leaves brushing against the windows. I sat at the old wooden desk in our study, the envelope before me, the pen trembling in my hand. My heart thudded with a rhythm I could not control, each beat reminding me of the gravity of the words I was about to commit to paper. I had spent hours that evening wrestling with my conscience. Should I speak? Should I remain silent? My fingers hovered over the pen, the blank sheet staring back at me, daring me to confess. And then I began. Slowly. Tentatively. I wrote about the mistakes I had made, the desires I had buried, the moments when I had feared that honesty would shatter the delicate life I had built. Each word was a struggle, a negotiation between fear and longing, secrecy and the need for truth. I wrote about the afternoon Henry had been delayed at work and how I had entertained a thought I never thought I would admit to myself, a fleeting attraction to someone who had crossed my path. It was harmless in reality, yet the guilt of thinking it, the shame of admitting it, pressed down on me like a weight I could not lift. I wrote about the times I had hidden my fears from him, the moments I had smiled through tears to protect him, and the tiny betrayals of the heart that no one else would ever know. And yet, in writing, I felt a strange relief. It was as though the pen itself carried away some of the burden, transferring it from my chest to the paper. Still, the question lingered, should I send it? Would he understand? Would love survive the truth? These questions paralyzed me. I folded the letter with trembling hands, sliding it into the envelope. And then, I froze. I sat there for what felt like hours, the envelope in my hands, staring into the darkness of the room. I imagined the moment he would read it, imagined the shock, the hurt, the questions. And I realized I was not ready. I could not bear the thought of losing him, not for something I had only dreamed, only imagined, only feared. So, I tucked the envelope away in the drawer, thinking that perhaps time would soften the edges, perhaps the secret could remain hidden without consequence. Years passed, and the envelope stayed there, a silent companion to my life. I would sometimes touch it, draw it out, feel its weight in my hands, and then return it to its hiding place. 50 years of fear, love, longing, and restraint. I had built a life around it, a careful balance of honesty and omission. Yet even with decades of practice, the envelope never ceased to remind me of what I had left unsaid. I often wondered if letters are like living things, waiting patiently for the right time to reveal themselves. Perhaps they sense the moment when the heart is ready, when courage has matured enough to face the consequences. And now, decades later, I feel that moment approaching. Holding this envelope again, I am not the same young woman who trembled at the thought of truth. I have lived. I have loved. I have lost. And in that living, I have learned that some truths, no matter how painful, demand to be faced. I remember the nights spent staring at the ceiling, imagining the words spilling out, imagining Henry reading them, imagining myself confessing aloud everything I had kept locked inside. My mind would race with possibilities, some terrifying, some comforting. I would picture him, hurt and confused, or perhaps understanding and forgiving. My imagination offered both solace and torment. And yet, I never acted. I was trapped in a limbo of my own making, bound by fear, by love, and by the uncertainty of what honesty could bring. There were moments when I almost sent it. I would take it out, read it again, feel my pulse quicken, and place it carefully back in its hiding place. I became an expert in postponement, a master of silence. Yet the envelope never disappeared. It waited, patiently, as if it knew that one day, I would have to reckon with it, with myself, and with the life that had passed me by while I remained cautious, hesitant, afraid. And now, holding it again, I feel the inevitability of reckoning. The words within are mine. They have always been mine. And perhaps finally, they are ready to be set free, even if only to myself. For in that release, I might find peace, understanding, and a reconciliation with the woman I once was and the woman I have become. The truth is, writing the letter was never the hardest part. The hardest part has always been living with it, carrying it like a hidden pulse within me. Every day, every year it was there, a silent witness to the life I lived, the love I shared, and the regrets I could not speak aloud. And yet, I survived. I loved. I laughed. I continued forward, learning that life can bear the weight of unspoken truths, even as it asks us, gently but persistently, to face them one day. Tonight, I am ready to face it. The envelope, the words, the memories, they are all part of me. And perhaps by confronting them, by allowing myself to feel the fear, the regret, and the hope simultaneously, I will finally understand the meaning of courage, of love, and of forgiveness. One afternoon, years after I had written and hidden the envelope, something unexpected happened. I was sorting through an old box of letters, postcards, and photographs, memories carefully preserved in dusty cardboard, and I found an envelope that made my heart lurch. It was newer, postmarked only a few days ago, and addressed to me. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. Who could have sent me a letter now, after all these years? I hesitated. My pulse quickened. Could it be Henry? But he had been gone for years. And yet here it was. I stared at it, my mind racing with possibilities. Perhaps it was a mistake, a letter meant for someone else. Perhaps it was nothing. Yet a tiny spark inside me whispered, this is connected to the envelope I never sent. My hands shook as I carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the handwriting unfamiliar yet deliberate, precise. I unfolded it slowly, feeling as though I were holding something fragile, something alive. The letter began with words that immediately drew me in. I know what you wrote. I understand why you never sent it. And yet, there is more that you should know. My breath caught. How could someone possibly know? And what more could there be? My mind raced with questions, my heart pounding in my chest. I read on, each sentence unraveling years of assumptions, fears, and uncertainties. It spoke of a secret I had never dared to imagine, a connection between my life and someone else's knowledge of it. The revelation was gentle, but it carried a weight I could barely comprehend. I read the letter again slowly, letting each word sink in. The writer claimed to know of my hidden envelope, of the confessions I had carried in silence. They wrote with understanding, compassion, and something that felt almost like kindness. And then came the part that made my hands shake, a question that seemed to pierce through time and memory. Do you dare to let the past speak? Do you dare to confront what you have kept hidden for so long? I set the letter down, trembling. I felt a swirl of emotions, fear, disbelief, curiosity, hope, and a strange exhilaration I had not felt in decades. Was this some kind of miracle? Or was it an illusion of my imagination, my mind playing tricks on me, trying to push me toward a confrontation I had long avoided? I didn't know. But I felt compelled to act, compelled to face what I had hidden, compelled to finally allow the past to breathe alongside the present. For hours, I sat there, rereading the mysterious letter, imagining every possible scenario. Who could have sent it? How did they know? What did they want from me? Every possible answer seemed simultaneously terrifying and promising. I was drawn into a web of memory, speculation, and anticipation that made my heart race and my mind spin. I felt like a young woman again, full of uncertainty, longing, and a dangerous curiosity I had long buried under years of caution. And then slowly, a realization dawned. Perhaps this was not about someone else at all. Perhaps the letter, the knowledge, and the curiosity it ignited were a reflection of my own readiness. Perhaps the universe, in its quiet and patient way, had provided me a mirror, showing me that I was ready to confront my own past, to face the truths I had hidden in silence for 50 long years. I found myself speaking aloud, almost involuntarily. Have I been waiting for this moment all these years? I felt my pulse quicken, my chest tighten, and a wave of courage rise within me. It was as if the envelope I had never sent had finally found its counterpart, urging me to act, to read, to confront, to speak. I picked up my original envelope, the one I had written all those years ago. Its paper felt warm in my hands, imbued with memories and emotions long dormant. I ran my fingers over the folds, remembering every tear, every hesitation, every secret thought that had gone into writing it. And then I looked at the new letter again, realizing that it was not a threat, nor a punishment, it was an invitation. An invitation to face myself, my choices, and the life I had lived. I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The fear of uncovering truths I had avoided for decades. The exhilaration of finally having the opportunity to confront them. I could feel the threads of suspense weaving through my chest, tying past and present together in a delicate, intricate pattern. And in that moment, I understood that curiosity, when tempered with courage, is a powerful force. I realized I had a choice: continue to live in cautious silence, or finally allow the story of my life, the story contained in that envelope, to be fully told. For the first time in decades, I felt ready to embrace the uncertainty, the risk, and the possibility of revelation. And as I sat there, envelopes in hand, I knew that the next step, whatever it might be, would change me forever. Curiosity had found me. It had whispered my name and beckoned me toward a confrontation I had long feared. And I knew, deep in my heart, that I could no longer turn away. It was time. Time to open the past, time to speak the truth, time to finally understand the full weight and meaning of the words I had written all those years ago. I remember sitting by the window that evening, envelopes in my hands, the old one I had written decades ago and the new mysterious letter that had arrived seemingly out of nowhere. I felt a strange mixture of fear, anticipation, and relief. My heart pounded like a drum, each beat a reminder of the years I had spent hiding my truth. And yet there was a softness too, a gentle understanding that perhaps finally the past and present could meet without shattering everything I had built. I opened the old envelope first, carefully unfolding the paper, letting my fingers trace the edges as if touching a living memory. The words leapt from the page with a quiet intensity, reminding me of the nights I had spent trembling over each sentence, the moments of fear and longing that had poured out in ink. Reading them now, decades later, I felt a strange connection to the younger woman I had been, the one who had dared to hope, to feel, and yet had been too afraid to speak. Tears welled in my eyes as I read about my confessions, my regrets, my secret longings. I had written about the moments I had feared would destroy us, the fleeting thoughts that had haunted me, and the love I had carried silently in the shadows. And yet, in reading it now, I did not feel shame. I felt pride. Pride that I had felt so deeply, so truly, and that I had lived a life full of feeling even when fear had held me back. Then I turned to the new letter, the one that had stirred my curiosity and pulled me into a web of questions. Its words were kind, understanding, and compassionate. They spoke not with judgment but with empathy, acknowledging the choices I had made and offering a gentle invitation to release the weight of silence I had carried for decades. The author had somehow understood the depth of my fear, the strength of my love, and the courage it would take to finally confront the truth. I could hardly breathe as I read the final lines. The past is never lost. It waits patiently for the moment you are ready. Today, that moment is yours. The words resonated through me, stirring a swell of emotions I could no longer contain. I felt fear, yes, but also a profound relief and even a strange exhilaration. For the first time in 50 years, I felt that the story I had carried in silence might finally be free. I leaned back, letting the weight of the past settle into the quiet of the room. Memories flooded me, the laughter, the arguments, the shared meals, the long walks, the whispered dreams, the mistakes, the forgiveness, the love. I saw Henry in my mind, his gentle smile, the way he had always believed in me, the way he had shaped my life without ever knowing the full depth of my heart. And I understood in that moment that love endures not despite our fears and mistakes, but because of them. I whispered to the wind, almost as if it could carry my words to the universe, "Thank you. Thank you for the courage to face this, for the wisdom to see that secrets, when held too long, can weigh like stones, and for the understanding that truth, even long delayed, is never too late." I felt tears streaming down my cheeks, hot and unrelenting, but also cleansing. They carried away the silence I had maintained for decades, the tension of unspoken words, and the ache of longing that had never been voiced. I thought of the younger Clara, trembling over her pen, wondering if love could survive honesty. I thought of the years of careful balance, of courage postponed, of dreams whispered only to myself. And I realized that courage is not about never being afraid, it is about embracing fear and moving forward anyway. And tonight, I moved forward. I carefully placed both letters side by side on the desk, feeling a sense of completion, of reconciliation, of balance. They were no longer simply paper, they were symbols of a life lived fully, with all its complexity, beauty, mistakes, and triumphs. I breathed deeply, letting the emotions wash over me, feeling a quiet liberation in the realization that I had finally faced the truth and found peace. The house was quiet, but in the silence, I felt an awakening. A sense of lightness, of understanding, of love that had always been present but hidden beneath layers of fear and hesitation. I smiled through my tears, feeling gratitude for every moment, the joy, the sorrow, the love, the longing, the letters, and the courage it took to finally read them aloud in my mind. In that quiet, golden evening, I understood the true meaning of closure. It is not about forgetting or erasing the past. It is about embracing it fully, allowing every memory, every feeling, every word, to exist as part of the tapestry of life. And it is about realizing that even decades later, we are capable of courage, understanding, and love. That night, I whispered one last time, I am ready.
Ready to live, ready to love, ready to face the past without fear.
And in that moment, I felt the weight of 50 years lift, replaced by a quiet, enduring peace. Life had taught me, in its own mysterious and patient way, that courage and love are always intertwined, that truth is never wasted, and that even the longest-held secrets can find release when the heart is ready. The next morning, I woke with a sense of lightness I had not known in decades. The house was quiet, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak of the old floorboards, the familiar sounds of my life, yet something felt profoundly different. I had confronted the envelope, the words, the fears I had held for 50 years. And in doing so, I felt a clarity, a peace, that made the air itself seem sweeter, the sunlight warmer, and the memories more tender. Soft piano music with gentle strings, reflecting calm and closure. I spent the morning moving slowly through the house, noticing every detail with a new awareness. The staircase where Henry had carved our initials, now slightly faded but still beautiful. The kitchen, filled with memories of shared meals, laughter, and quiet talks. The garden, where roses still bloomed, stubborn and resilient, just as Henry had promised. Each corner, each object, seemed to hold a story, a lesson, and a piece of my heart. I realized that confronting the envelope had not only released the weight of secrecy, but also reminded me of the depth of the life I had lived. I had loved, I had lost, I had hoped, I had feared, and through it all I had endured. That endurance, I now understood, was itself a testament to the courage we carry quietly within us, often unnoticed, yet powerful beyond measure. Soft piano music with gentle strings, reflecting calm and closure. I spent the morning moving slowly through the house, noticing every detail with a new awareness. The staircase where Henry had carved our initials, now slightly faded but still beautiful. The kitchen, filled with memories of shared meals, laughter, and quiet talks. The garden, where roses still bloomed, stubborn and resilient, just as Henry had promised. Each corner, each object, seemed to hold a story, a lesson, and a piece of my heart. The next morning, I woke with a sense of lightness I had not known in decades. The house was quiet, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak of the old floorboards, the familiar sounds of my life, yet something felt profoundly different. I had confronted the envelope, the words, the fears I had held for 50 years. And in doing so, I felt a clarity, a peace, that made the air itself seem sweeter, the sunlight warmer, and the memories more tender. Soft piano music with gentle strings, reflecting calm and closure. I spent the morning moving slowly through the house, noticing every detail with a new awareness. The staircase where Henry had carved our initials, now slightly faded but still beautiful. The kitchen, filled with memories of shared meals, laughter, and quiet talks. The garden, where roses still bloomed, stubborn and resilient, just as Henry had promised. Each corner, each object, seemed to hold a story, a lesson, and a piece of my heart. I realized that confronting the envelope had not only released the weight of secrecy, but also reminded me of the depth of the life I had lived. I had loved, I had lost, I had hoped, I had feared, and through it all I had endured. That endurance, I now understood, was itself a testament to the courage we carry quietly within us, often unnoticed, yet powerful beyond measure. Soft piano music with gentle strings, reflecting calm and closure. I spent the morning moving slowly through the house, noticing every detail with a new awareness. The staircase where Henry had carved our initials, now slightly faded but still beautiful. The kitchen, filled with memories of shared meals, laughter, and quiet talks. The garden, where roses still bloomed, stubborn and resilient, just as Henry had promised. Each corner, each object, seemed to hold a story, a lesson, and a piece of my heart. I realized that confronting the envelope had not only released the weight of secrecy, but also reminded me of the depth of the life I had lived. I had loved, I had lost, I had hoped, I had feared, and through it all I had endured. That endurance, I now understood, was itself a testament to the courage we carry quietly within us, often unnoticed, yet powerful beyond measure. As I walked through the house, I paused at the study where it all began. The envelopes rested side by side on the desk, a silent testament to the journey of my heart. I ran my fingers over the paper, remembering the trembling hands, the racing pulse, the fear, the longing, the love. And I whispered a quiet thank you to the younger Clara, who had dared to feel so deeply, even when the world seemed too vast, too uncertain, or too unforgiving. I thought about the mysterious letter that had arrived, the one that had stirred my curiosity and urged me toward confrontation. Perhaps it was sent by someone who had known, understood, or observed from afar. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps it was destiny in disguise. Whatever the truth, I no longer needed answers. The letter had served its purpose. It had awakened courage, curiosity, and the understanding that some truths, however long hidden, must eventually be faced. I spent the afternoon writing in my journal, reflecting on the life I had lived, the love I had shared, and the lessons I had learned. I wrote of hope and loss, of laughter and tears, of courage and fear. I wrote as if speaking to my younger self, offering reassurance, understanding, and forgiveness. And in those pages, I found a final release, a sense of closure and a deep, abiding peace. It struck me that life is like the letters we write, whether sent or hidden. Some words reach their destination immediately, some are delayed, and some may never be delivered at all. Yet every word, every thought, every feeling contributes to the tapestry of our existence. Even secrets, long held, carry wisdom, perspective, and the quiet strength to shape who we become. As evening fell, I returned to the window, looking out at the garden where roses bloomed stubbornly, defiantly, beautifully.
The golden light of the sunset painted the sky in hue of pink and amber.
I felt a profound gratitude for the life I had lived, for the love I had known, and for the courage I had found. I understood now that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. And so, I whispered into the warm evening air, I am ready. Ready to embrace the days ahead with the knowledge that the past, with all its secrets, regrets, and joys, had shaped me into a woman capable of resilience, hope, and love. Ready to honor the memory of Henry, the life we built, and the heart that had always dared to feel, even when afraid. The envelopes remained on the desk, silent witnesses to my journey. But in that silence, I heard something far greater, the voice of my own courage, my own understanding, my own enduring love. Life had offered me a lesson, and I had learned it. And now finally I could step forward, unburdened, whole, and at peace. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply, letting the warmth of the sunset fill me. The world outside was unchanged, yet I felt transformed. The weight of decades lifted, replaced by a quiet strength and the profound knowledge that the past, with all its letters, memories, and secrets, had not broken me, it had made me whole. And in that wholeness, I found the courage to continue living, loving, and embracing every moment yet to come.